Right. Perfect, perfect. Welcome, welcome. I'm Dr. Nakia Cotton Smith. I am a 29-year educator, and I am the owner of EduFaith Educational Services. I am bringing you greetings from a cold Marietta, Georgia. Just to give you a little bit about me, as I mentioned, I'm a 29-year educator. Some of my background expertise includes I was a teacher for 12 years. After teaching for 12 years, I decided I wanted to have a larger impact and support students. So I went into administration after my 12th year. In that role, I served as a special programs director. I was in charge of ESOL, Section 504, MTSSS, and implementation of MTSSS and the entire intervention team process, as well as special education and those diverse learner programs. In that role, I loved it. Did it for 4 years. I relocated to Atlanta at that time. When I moved to Atlanta, I became an assistant principal at a middle school in charge of the same programs: MTSS 504, Section 504, special education, all the diverse learner programs, including English language learners. Did that role for 3 years. And then I transferred to another district where I was up at the district level. In that district role, I served as a supervisor of special education and compliance. And in that role, oversaw a lot of the litigious IEP meetings, and I was solely in charge of Section 504 for over 120,000 students in that district. From there, that's where I decided this is my niche. And I love working with diverse learners. I love working with families, organizations, all things that's supporting diverse learners. That's what I'm all about. And so from there, that's why I decided to create EduFaith Consulting. I created it once I finished my first book, Essential Tips for Special Education Leaders During the Pandemic. Pandemic did have some positives. So I decided to start my own consulting business to help train and work with parents, educators, leaders, organizations about supporting diverse learners and honing in on skills to improve relationships and supporting diverse learners. Needless to say, now I'm at the college level and I'm working with ed leaders, and I also teach inclusive education classes to teachers because that's what I truly love. And I'm really glad to be here today to train and provide resources. And I'm not going to even say train, just collaborate. That's the better word. Collaborate with you today about diverse learners and see how I can help support you in your role. And so we'll go ahead and get started, and I'm going to admit her. All right. And we'll do a couple of different things. We'll be juggling. So let's go ahead and get started. Titled this Supporting Diverse Learners Beyond the School Day, because I understand what you do, and what you do, you work with students beyond the school day. When we think of our session outcomes and what we want to accomplish today, we're going to do this in three parts, and then we're going to take a little quick minute, maybe 5 to 7 minute break midpoint, because I do know that it's important that we get up and move around and stretch our legs and things like that. What we want to accomplish today is we want to make sure that we distinguish the difference between an IEP, a 504, and an English language learner plan. We want to make sure that we confidently understand the MTSS process and then how this can look for you in the after school setting. We want to match needs with interventions. We want to identify concerns for students without IEPs and 504 plans, because every student that may need support, they don't actually have a 504 IEP. So you still have those students who may not have that plan that still require additional supports. We're going to discuss family communication starters and then walk away with some simple, actionable student support plans. Before we dive in, there was a zip file that I sent over. Myra, I don't know if you received this and was able to distribute it, but I had a lot of different handouts in there. Did you get a chance to get that today?
Yes, I have it.
Okay.
Yeah, do they need it for this session? Because I realize the zip folder will take a little bit of time to send.
It is going to take some time. I will share what I have, but the handouts are really kind of help because it's going to build
Okay.
upon it. So I would
I'll share.
I was going to say the big thing is the resource, the teacher resource. So even if you just get that one teacher resource, it's like 4 pages and it has all the different resources, because a lot of my information on the slides, it builds upon that just so they'll have a context.
Okay, what is it called?
I think it's called Teach Smart Resource. I can show you. Let me see.
Yeah, no, I see the zip file, but then there's a bunch of documents in it. Which one would make sense to share? Or do you want me to share all of them?
Share all of them eventually. Yeah.
Well, TBD, y'all. We'll get there. It'll take like a couple minutes, but I think you can keep going.
I'll move on. No problems. I just wanted to make sure everyone was following along with everything. All right. Well, let's go ahead and discuss our norms. This is a little different because I'm Zoom, you're not, you're in person, but we just want to make sure that we're engaged and present. We're about having your cameras on, if you want to ask questions, I will open up the floor and allow time to ask questions. And then we're not going to worry about muting our microphones because you're in person. Let's frame after school program with SMART. Because when you think about supporting students, student supports don't end after school is over, whatever time you got out. Plans, IEPs, 504s, those plans don't stop at 3 o'clock. Those plans continue to support students after school and beyond. And just a little quick story scenario. One of the things when I was a supervisor of compliance and special education, a lot of times I would have conversations with after school programs about, making sure that the 504 was adhered to because a student might have an allergy or something and you want to make sure that student doesn't have a peanut butter bar or something like that in after school. So one of those things that I really worked towards and supporting was making sure that the 504 and IEP plans were implemented beyond the day in the means of the bus, after school programs, in the cafeteria and things like that. So we know that what you do is really important in supporting students, and it's important that you have the right strategies and tools to help support students beyond the school day because 504 plans and IEPs don't stop at the end of the school day. The first part of this, we're going to understand the big three. So I'm going to take you through the big three, which are the IEP, the individual education plan, the Section 504 plan, and an English language learning plan. So you'll understand how they look and when you get one or when you're handed one, you'll know what to really tap into and what to look at. So first, I want to give you a little context. And actually, this is a little, if you would, go ahead and scan this QR code with your phones. This is a Menti. I want you to rate yourselves. So go ahead and jump in there and see if you could go ahead and get in this Menti. Rate your confidence in implementing accommodations. And I'll give you a minute.
Oh, I think you need to, have you turned it on?
It should
It's telling
be
us to.
on. Yeah, let me start. Let me do something.
I just put it in.
I know it was kind of making everyone log in. I didn't like that necessarily. So let me get in there and get it.
And Nikki, I shared the folders. They're in emails.
Okay.
And also, so if you have like a specific out of the documents you want them to look at, just let us know and folks
Okay.
can pull it up.
All right, perfect. Let me get back to my Menti. Hold on just a minute, you all.
Yeah.
Where are we going? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, it should be. There we are. Is it not letting you start? I'm starting.
Yeah, it does. It works.
Are you in?
Yes.
Okay, I see you now.
You put the QR code back on.
Oh, you need a QR code? Okay. Well, you can join this right here too. So if you do menti.com,
All right.
I was hoping it'll show through my presentation, but Menti does it what it wants. All right. Let's see. Let's show responses.
Clear?
Yes, thank you.
All right, here we go. All right, so when we're looking at everyone, I think I have some sort of confidence in here. That's good. So we have some sort of confidence, and that's okay. Hopefully by the end, I'll have some rock stars in here. All right, so let's go ahead and jump back in. Let's shrink that down. I was hoping it'll show. All right, let's go back to our present. Oops. Sorry. One more time. Gotta love tech, y'all. Give me a second. Juggling here. Oh, it showed up. Okay, perfect. Okay, this is what I wanted anyways. I wanted it to show in the screen anyways. All right. Then I don't have to keep toggling. All right. So let's interview. Present. Drag this thing back over here so I can have my notes with you. And why are we doing this? This interview. There we are. So full transparency, just gonna be transparent. I just got a MacBook. I love it, but honey, the learning curve is something else. So I'm just gonna be honest with you. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Good to know that we have some people that are confident, somewhat confident in it. All right, let's go ahead and just go through an overview of 504s and IEPs. When we think about those big three, they have three separate purposes for students. And they're really important for diverse learners. I want to give you just first an overview of diverse learners, and I have a podcast. So what I want to do is just provide just a little snippet of the podcast, the episode that I presented that was all about diverse learners, and so I'm hoping it'll work for us. Welcome to the Educators. I'm going to shift it. Let me know if you all can hear it when I get to play, and I'm just going to play a little snippet for you. 601. Being passionate about diverse learners. So can you hear it? Why don't I define diverse learners for those who are not sure who are diverse learners and why I do what I do with Educate Essentials. So what we're going to talk about today is diverse learners. We're going to identify diverse learners and ways we can support diverse learners. So a diverse learner includes children and students of all abilities from racially, ethnic, cultural, and linguistic diverse communities and background. Diverse learners may be diverse in a variety of ways, but some of those ways include gender, ethnicity, linguistic, academic ability, a disability, physical ability or disability, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, religion, culture, personal backgrounds, and experiences. So all of those things are some of the categories in which a student may be identified as a diverse learner. When you think about diverse learners, I want you to think about this as a perspective when you're looking at the diverse learners and how prevalent diverse learners are in today's classrooms. In a classroom of 24 students today, between 10 and 12 students, 40 to 50% are living in poverty, have a disability or learning difference, are English learners, are gifted or talented, are experiencing challenges at home or in their communities that result in trauma, or some combination of the above of each of whom research shows differentiated approaches to learning is needed. So when I talk about Educate Essentials and supporting diverse learners, these are the students that I aim to talk about. These are the students that I aim to support. And why? Because our platform and our world is changing. And diversity, equity, inclusion is everywhere. So we want to make sure that we identify ways to teach, instruct, and provide that equal level playing field for all students, regardless of their backgrounds. When you're looking at supporting diverse learners and recognizing diverse learners are identified by various diversity links, like I said. So those links may be any of these or a combination of these characteristics. You want to recognize that diverse learners are unique, and what makes them unique is their linguistic background, is their academic background, is their social economic status. And you want to make sure that you accommodate diversity by creating learning environments that allow every student to achieve his or her personal best within the realm of each person's individualism. Value diversity. We want to value diversity. All right, so I just want to pay a little snippet of, what is a diverse learner? When you think about it, how do you categorize diverse learners in the classroom? So let me go ahead and shift to the next slide. So, any questions or any feedback so far on, diverse learners and how they look, or was there anything really prevalent in the presentation as far as the numbers of students that are represented in the classrooms now? Any feedback on that?
Yeah, I have a question. In the presentation or your podcast, you talked about one of the definitions being gifted or talented. I haven't really heard that language in a really long time. And I was wondering what your definition or what definition you were drawing from for that like statistic.
From gifted, it depends on the test. So a lot of districts test students for giftedness. And in some districts, students actually, they don't have an IEP, but they may be considered an exceptional learner and they fall under the category of giftedness. But it's going to be based on district assessments and they're capped for a criteria. Every district has a criteria for a student to be evaluated and tested to see if they qualify for a gifted program.
Mm.
All right. All right, so let's go back to the Menti. I want to share what comes to mind when you hear IEP or 504.
Was that a question for the group or back to the Menti?
It's the Menti, sorry.
Okay.
Turn it on.
Yeah, I think we need to go to the question.
Okay, we won't worry about it. Just tell me what comes to mind. I'll talk to you. It's a small group. Tell me what comes to mind.
Can you repeat the question just one more time?
Yeah, what comes to mind when you hear IEP or 504? What do you guys think about? What are you thinking about?
Documents.
Mm-hmm. Documents, I heard that.
Making sure students have the tools they need to be successful, sort of like leveling out the classroom for them.
Yep. So I heard leveling the playing field. Mm-hmm. What else? Anything else? And I'm getting into the Menti too.
I think about meetings and updates, like making sure to collect like the most up-to-date documents because things are always changing.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you for sharing. Let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm still going to come back to the Menti, but I don't want to keep going back and forth. When you think about students with disabilities, the first thing I want to point out is the why and how, what happened. So students with disabilities all originated from Public Law 94-142, which was a law that was established in 1975. In 1973, that's when the Individuals with Education, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act was enacted as well. Both of these plans came from Public Law 94-142, and they were put in place to support individuals with disabilities, whether they had a medical need or an academic need. But from these laws came two things: the Section 504 plan, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, and the Individual Education Plan, which supports documentation. When you think about English language learners, that came from the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and also the Bilingual Education Act of 1968. With that, those programs provided equity and equal access for students who had language barriers who came from other countries. Both Section 504, IEPs, ELL, they all ensure access and equity regardless if a student has a language barrier, which a diverse learner may have a language barrier, or if a student has a academic or a physical disability. Diverse learners fall under all those categories, so it's really important that you understand this part of the law and the legality of Section 504 plans and IEPs and things like that. When we look at an overview of the services, like I said, these are the big three. And those big three all have documents to support students. Just to give you a little recap of the first one is Section 504 in special education. Two separate things, got two fingers. So the IEP, as I stated, was implemented from Public Law 94-142. That became the IEP, which is the Individual Education Plans, where districts had to document services to document a free and appropriate public education. You've all heard that term, FAPE. It offers those specialized services. An IEP is a lengthy document, has goals, objectives, a lot of different components in there for you to look at with students. The big thing is accommodations and placement and goals. And every year the student has goals, the team meets, they update those goals academically. Section 504 laws came from Public Law 94-142 as well, and that is where the Section 504 plan came into place. Both plans serve students with disabilities. When you think of Section 504, that's when a person may have a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. And when you think of 504, it's monitored under Office of Civil Rights. IEP is monitored under the Individual Disabilities Education Act, which is the U.S. Department of Education, and they both support individuals with disabilities. The 504 plan is more medically driven. So you might have a student who comes into your after school program with a severe allergy, and they may have a 504 plan for a severe allergy. A student with the IEP, they might have attention deficit disorder, and they call that other health impairment. So they just need accommodations for that. Both of them serve and support. Both of them provide access to a free and appropriate public education. 504 plans are more medically driven. IEPs are more lengthy. They have goals, objectives, accommodations. A 504 plan is just going to mostly have accommodations. And I have some samples that I'm going to show you in just a little bit. When we think about English language learner plans, they're plans that document strategies and access for English language learners. That they want to also ensure that students can access the curriculum equitably, and this all became under civil rights laws of Lau and Nichols back in, I think this was 1964. And all three plans, once again, promote and provide equity for students. The IEP and the 504 provides that free and appropriate public education, and the ELL provides language access and removal of language barriers. All of them must be followed by law. This on the screen is an example of a sample individual education plan. I provided a copy in the resources for you all. Did someone say something?
Just sharing that everyone has access to it if they want to pull it up.
Yes. And let me know if you need a moment to do that. We good? Do I need to keep going or give you a minute?
Keep it going.
Okay, keep going. All right. So this is an example of a sample IEP. If you saw a sample IEP and a child or a teacher shared this with you in your program, one thing that you're really going to look at is something called the present levels of performance. The present level of performance is going to tell you everything, even the reason why that student has the IEP. So you want to take a look at that present level of performance. Look in there, you'll see strengths, deficits. Somewhere in there, you'll see the impact of the disability in the present levels of performance. All IEPs are different in that you'll see, why the student has the accommodation that they have. The second thing I would like for you to think about when you're looking at an IEP, if you've received the IEP, is take a look at the goals and the objectives. The goals are going to tell you what goals that student has in place. What you can do from your standpoint is look at the goals and see how you can help reinforce those goals in your program. And then the final thing that I will have you look at is the supplementary aids and services, which we call accommodations. These can be implemented in the program. So for instance, a student might have extended time. A student might have preferential seating because they're distracted. So these are the things that you can implement in your program regardless. So looking at the present levels of performance, looking at the goals, and looking at those accommodations, because those accommodations are things that you could provide and support in learning environment. When we think about Section 504s, those are a little bit slimmer. As Section 504s, as I mentioned, they don't have goals and objectives and things like that. Section 504 is mostly, it has the impact of why this person has a disability. And so the person can have attention deficit disorder if they don't require special education services, but they can also have asthma, they can have allergies, they can have diabetes. So more medically driven 504s. When you receive, or if you receive a 504 plan, I would encourage you to look at the documented disability. So see if you can find out why that student has it because that's important. And then go ahead and for this one, it's not as extensive as an IEP. So for this one, I would just skip to the accommodations. What accommodations or modifications do this student require that I can implement in my program to support them after school or in the SMART program? So these are things that you can just take. Okay, they have diabetes, and these are the accommodations. Need to make sure they have bottled water, their insulin is in the clinic, just different things like that. So those are the things that you want to look for IEP and 504 plan. When you're thinking of an English language learner plan, it depends on your district, and you guys are in California, but we have something called WIDA, and WIDA is the World Consortium for English language learners, and it's nationwide, but it might be called something different in California than it is for Texas and Florida and things like that. But in that, you will want to see the ELL plan, what level of English proficiency that student is on. Usually level 1, they're lower and they're not English proficient, but then they grow up and it depends on the levels in your state. So level 5 might be, very proficient. Level 4 might be proficient, but you want to look at an English language learner plan, see what the proficiency level is, and then go and look in their accommodations. You can also look at their goals too, but the accommodations, the modifications, the supports, sometimes it's visual supports, things like that. Those are the things that you can implement in SMART after school. So those are the big 3. And if you receive one of the big 3 documents, those are those things you need to look at for each one of them. So recap one good time for you. So for IEP, you want to look at present levels, goals, and accommodations. Going a little fast. For 504, you want to look at the documentation of the disability or the why, the impairment. We'll say impairment and the accommodations. And then for the last one, ELL, you want to look at their language proficiency level and what are those accommodations or supports that are implemented in the plan. And this is what I was mentioning with the WIDA standards. It just depends. Did someone say something? I hear a little bit of feedback.
Does everyone have access to the documents? Yeah.
Did someone have a question?
No.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I heard a little feedback. All right. For you and your role, these are the things I would task you to do. Make sure that you aim to see students beyond the label. Make sure that you break these accommodations down to your environment. And then you want to make sure, even with visual supports, which I'm going to go through that a little bit later, we're going to go into those into MTSS, but follow the visual supports, but add those and make those appropriate for your space. Because your program, you might have more than 20 students in a classroom or in a space. So it's going to be really hard to do certain things like small group and things like that when you have more students. So see how you can modify or adapt an accommodation to your space. You want to accommodate and maintain goals, but offer those different tools to support students. When you think about the big 3 and wrapping them up, the IEP focuses on goals and objectives. Sometimes they have a summary performance when you have high school students and transition planning, very much more detailed. The 504 plan just provides us accommodations and even those things that are maybe used in the workplace later. And then English language learners, they address those language barriers. So we got 2 plans for individual disabilities and 1 plan for a student with a language barrier, which are all categorized under diverse learners. All right, so 504 supports, know the plans, know the accommodations. I've kind of gone through this already. An example for students with ADHD in your program, you might want to put them in a quiet space or either have them take some breaks when they're working through some things. And these are on that handout. So I gave you all a handout, and there's like a whole resource handout, and these are in there for you. For IEP supports, understand the goals, adapt, collaborate, track progress, and then follow the accommodations. And I'm going to show you exactly what document I'm talking about. And then for ELL supports, you want to make sure that you incorporate those English language learner plans in there. And if I was to show you what I'm talking about, there's a training resource like this that I provided to you all. And that information is on this right here, this document. So a lot of the information that I'm talking about today will be on this training resource for you. And it's already highlighted for you. So just take it with you. Do you all see that resource?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Take it with you. All right, so now I'm going to try and go back to Menti. Where's my Menti? Because I want to know how you're feeling. So, or just looking at the accommodations or thinking about the accommodations, if I can't get my Menti up, what are some things you can implement now, knowing what you know now about 504 and accommodations and things like that? Here we are. All right, it's unlocked. Here we go. Very good. Chart assignment. I love it. One-on-one check-ins. Perfect. Keep going, keep adding. Yeah, think about how you can bring this to your world. Yes, very good point. Whoever said that, make sure that you create a common practice to request if a student has a 504 IEP or ELL plan with those teachers. So make that a part of your common practice so you can always have those copies. Visual schedules. Perfect. All right. Move this back over. Let's go back to my screen. Present. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to get my screen right. We're going to see if you all need a break. How are you doing? How are you feeling? If not, I could keep going. But I had to schedule a slight break in here.
We're good.
Yeah.
You good? Okay.
Folks on
Huh?
You
say
keep
good?
going.
Okay, keep going. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, I will keep going. All right, here we go. Wait, hold on. Technology is so hard starting new stuff. All right, got it. Move it slower. There we go. All right, so let's keep going. Let's keep going. Keep the momentum going. All right, so we are here. Now we're going to talk about MTSS Demystified. Let's go into it. All right, here we go. All right, so the goal of this part of the training is all about MTSS and breaking down those walls of MTSS and understanding MTSS, the process. We're going to discuss, slow down, we're going to discuss an overview. We'll have goals and the purpose, some tiers. We'll talk about the good old tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and then core principles, strategies, and then some intervention plans. I shared an intervention plan with you, and I also shared some resources and a blank intervention plan that you might want to use. All right, so thinking about multi-tier system of support, it's a framework, and that framework provides that data-driven information for educators, parents, and teachers to all work together to improve instruction, improve program, improve student engagement, have that data-based decision making and progress monitoring. Back when we first started MTSS and RTI, when it first came into play, a lot of times when I first started, we would just test students for special education, and based on that, they were placed into special education. MTSS changed all of that and said, okay, you can use your evaluations and your assessments. However, we need to have data and see how we can create better goals to meet that student where we are. So a lot of the MTSS framework came into place to, one, see where students need to receive that universal instruction that's going to meet their needs, but then also using data to determine goals and objectives to support that student with that specific need. When we think about it and how it helps, MTSS, it was first RTI, but now it's MTSS, and they've merged together to include not only academics, but behaviors. So you've heard the term positive behavior support, because positive behavior support supports behaviors. We're looking at the whole child. So how can you support a child academically and behaviorally? Because we all know if a student is misbehaving, you can't teach. It's just impossible. You want to have that proactive approach to help that whole child meet their academic and social and behavioral needs. And that's what MTSS aims to do. When we think about the goal, it's providing that equitable support to all students, thinking about diverse learners. Our diverse learners really need supports to help them meet where they are. It's proactive and it's data driven. And in schools, you see those improved outcomes. So in your role, a student might have an intervention plan in their classroom or either a positive support plan for behaviors or to support with behaviors or some type of document in the school. You can take those plans and implement those positive support plans in the SMART program. So seeing how you can pick up where the school day ends and build upon that day and continue to support the students and build upon that day and continue to support the student. I'm hearing feedback. Am I the only one hearing? I'm hearing feedback.
I think there's a lag, but let me just double check you're on the right Wi-Fi. Yeah.
I hear
It's on
myself.
the right Wi-Fi. It's just sometimes the internet is in and out.
I hear myself.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll keep going. I'll ignore it. I'll keep going. I'll ignore it. When we think about MTSS goals, those are the goals, and then effective MTS. We want to define, align, develop strong tier ones, leverage the analytics, and then continuously work together. The tiers. What do the tiers mean? So the tiers there are 4 tiers to MTSS. The first one is our universal design, and this is meant to meet the needs of all students. When doing that, the goal is to provide 80 to 90% for all students. In your program, you want to create robust program and culture that establish routines and avoidable challenges. So if you have great routines and practices in place in your program, then you're setting up for that tier 1 foundation and prevention of certain issues and things that could go wrong potentially in the program by having those foundations in place. Tier 2 is your early intervention. That's when you're looking at small groups. Okay, this student, I'm doing math with them. They're having a hard time adding, or they're having a hard time solving this equation because they can't multiply. So maybe I need to pull these 2 students aside and reteach some things or reinforce a skill. So that's what tier 2 is looking like, that early intervention. You're realizing the student has a deficit, and how can I do some quick literacy things in small groups or math things in small groups to help support that student. Tier 3 is more your 504 and students who require that individualized support. So tier 3 is removing the barriers and working with a student one-on-one. Tier 4, IEP. Or it could be intensive supports where that student requires something atypical than all other students. So those are the 4 tiers of MTSS. Tier 4 was later added, and because it's more of the IEP and the student is getting that intensive beyond everyone else support. When we think about the frameworks, there's 6 frameworks to MTSS. And the big thing or the big 4 for MTSS is making sure you screen a student, progress monitor with fidelity, have those multi-level prevention systems, and then continue making data-driven decisions. So based on the documentation and based on me doing addition facts with this student for 3 weeks, they're still struggling, I need to keep going, or they're better, I can change their goal or modify the goal, or we need to continue working until we see something different. So the whole core principle is trying things, implementing it, seeing what works, and then coming back to the drawing board. So when we think of MTSS tools, the one thing I gave you in the handout, on the one handout that I showed you that had all the different strategies and skills, there are some resources. MTSS for Success is a great site that provide a lot of different information. And then at Smart Handout, I have some additional links to some plans in there that'll provide you all types of great data about MTSS and sample plans. Thinking about intervention plans, when you are supporting students with MTSS, you're not going to have an IEP or 504 because they haven't been placed, but you will have an intervention plan. When you look at the intervention plan, I gave you some sample ones. So this is a sample one for Taylor. This is a sample reading one. When you look at an intervention plan, a teacher should share this, but if you have to write one in your program, you want to make sure that you identify the need for that student. You want to develop a goal based on what you know about that student. So if they're having a hard time with sight words, or they're having a hard time with addition facts, you write a goal for that academic need, and then you'll align it with the benchmarks that that student need, and then you'll put some things into place. For instance, the detailed after school intervention steps. And I gave you the entire plan, so you can kind of look through the plan that I provided and see what I recommended. And I tailored this for after school. So held three times a week, 60 minutes, small group. We're going to do flashcards with 3 or 5 students and follow the intervention plan. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to come back together and see where that student is. Or see how that student is doing. The big thing is to make sure that you have some goals, ongoing progress monitoring, and the interventions. Those are your big 3 for MTSS and writing intervention plans. So take a look at the sample intervention plan I provided. And then while you're doing that, let's discuss, do you have a potential student that may need one? And I'm asking just you in general to discuss with me. How do you receive intervention plans from the school? Are you writing them? Talk to me a little bit about this.
We don't have intervention plans from the school. We'll sometimes, usually it's through the parent or guardian, we'll get their 504 and IEP. But a specific like intervention plan just associated with the MTSS, that's something that we don't necessarily have access to, but so.
And thank you. And are you thinking about having this as a practice in the program for you all?
So I think we're just wanting to learn more about because we have our students, so we have our students once a week after school. And so, but we work with them 4th grade all the way through college. Like, what are ways that we can implement MTSS and really actively progress monitor in our space? And so I think tools are really helpful. Like, what does that look like within our after school program? So TBD, but excited to see examples.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I just want to make sure that the intervention plan that I provided, it may be something that you use. You look at the example, and so when you write one, you want to, this is very detailed, and that's just a special ed in me, but the big thing is having those goals, objectives, and some type of data tracking. So how often you're going to check the data. For instance, this is, like I said, very detailed, but in it, some things that you want to look for is a goal for that student. How is it going to look in the after school structure? What activities are you going to do to support that student? And then how are you going to progress monitor? So those are your things that you want to have in place for an intervention plan. Mentioned before about MTSS and PBIS, how they both work together. And this is just a visual for you just to see how they work together and working with students. And there is some overlap with the tiers, but the MTSS is more the academic, and then the PBIS combined with that social, emotional, and academic, so social, emotional, and behaviors for students. So just to give you some MTSS strategies that you could implement just right off the back in your program. Some examples include small group targeted instruction, pre-teaching, check-ins, check-outs. You can do check-ins, check-out. And on that resource, I provided extensive details and bullets for you. But explicit planning and study skills. A lot of our students in middle and high school don't have study skills. And that's something that have to be taught sometime. Like how to go and take your time and read and highlight and annotate. So study skills, planning, helping them with agendas and planners and checkpoints, having those structured routines, that tier 1 support to help put things in place. Positive reinforcement, self-monitoring, goal setting. You can set goals with the students within the intervention plan or just within your relationship with the student. And then having that mentorship and collaboration. The one thing that really, really helps and supports is having those positive relationships with families and with the students. So they'll build that trust and motivation will increase. When we think of behavior supports, there are some examples. I know behavior is really, really big. My January podcast was on behavior support, and then I'm actually the next February when I'm having a behavior intervention specialist come in and speak because I'm seeing so much stuff about behavior. But I know behavior really does impact the whole environment and climate. And here are some strategies to help with the behavior support that I provided. So, 2-minute self-regulation, start with simple things, building that rapport, having visual schedules, even little using an agenda and have, okay, you're going to do this. And then in 5 minutes, I'm going to come back and check and see how you're doing. Having those options and choices, redirection, allowing choices, and just different things like that. So behavior supports are really important. And I want to make sure that I hone in and provide some examples of behavior supports because that's, like I said, just really instrumental in any school of education. All right, I'm going to come back. Diverse learners. So when we're thinking about supporting diverse learners, we want to make sure that we cover everything: missing assignments, tardiness, withdrawal from peers. These are some things that we might see when we're looking at challenges and a student is different. And these might be some things that pique your interest for you to have a conversation with the family. Because the next part I'm going to discuss some different things that in some ways and some conversation starters for you to have to discuss with parents. But if you have a student in your program and you're seeing some of these challenges, go ahead and have a conversation. See how often it's happening, and then go ahead and have that conversation with the families. Missing assignments, tardiness, diminished interests, changes of routines. These are things that are red flags that you might see, and you will have to intervene. When these things happen, here are some common do's and don'ts. When you see a student that's having a challenge, an academic challenge, a behavior challenge that's just something different, and you can tell that something's off because you have a great relationship with the student, you want to make sure that you don't force it, but don't diagnose, but make sure that you're using the proper channels, you're having those conversations, check in privately with the student. Are you okay? I noticed that you're acting a little different and everything's going okay today. Are you having a bad day? Offer those choices without being confrontational because you see that there's something different going on with flexibility. And then once again, discuss the concern with the teachers and as well as the families that are coming through. Is something going on and think I can help with support? So those are those supports when those students who are diverse learners are having challenging things going on. When we shift into look at ways to speak to families, you want to make sure that you strategic. So when you approach a family about an issue or concern or something, you want to always start off with the positive, but then you want to be specific. For instance, I've noticed so and so seems quieter today. Invite parent input. Hi, how things going? Um, I noticed that Johnny's a little withdrawn. Any changes or things that we can do to support him? Are you seeing this at home? You don't want to be invasive, but you do want to have that casual conversation just to see if there's something that you can do to support, or if you need to go through a different avenue of talking to, your supervisor about the situation and have interventions. You want to collaborate with solutions and not be judgmental. And then you want to have that open door policy, encouraging communication. And that's just great relationship building with families. When there is constructive communication and conflict resolution, you want to be respectful, clear. You want to have that constructive conflict. Remember, I said start with something positive. You want to have action and problem solving. So you don't want to vent to the parent. You want to approach the challenge as a team and see what you can do to be productive or serve as a solution, a solution oriented individual to help support the family. You want to be a support, and you want to maintain that consistency, and then also cultural sensitivity. People come from all different cultures and different, things, cultures and backgrounds. So you want to make sure that you have a respectful communication style, and that you respect the, all cultures and backgrounds and differences, whether they're, if it's the diverse learner styles. Like I said, whether it's a person with a disability, LGBT, I get it wrong, so let me not go there. Gender, those things. Make sure that you are adhering to those things, because people are so different now. We just want to make sure that we're respectful. Even though, people have different ways, we can't be biased. So we want to make sure that we're non-biased and supportive. Advocacy tips. You want to always advocate for your students. I don't know what your relationship is with the teachers and the schools, but if you can have that relationship and have some type of documentation or collaboration, that will be great. How do you all do it? I'm just asking, are you connected to a school, or talk to me?
We have students that go to like over 40 different schools, but I'd love for some from our advisors to share like how do you collaborate with the school, with the teachers?
Yes.
What are ways that you've done that in the past? Whoever's ready can speak up.
It's a mix of emailing counselors or their advisors. Usually they have like homeroom teachers that we can communicate with that are in charge of them for 4 years while they're in high school. I'm speaking on behalf of the high school team. But yeah, I mean, we usually get in contact with schools pretty early on in the year, and our supervisor meets with them ahead of time to talk about students, and then from there, he lets us know who may need extra levels of support noticing by the school.
Okay, perfect. Good to know. Anyone else want to share?
One for middle school that looks like different, similar.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. I would say that like something newer is that I feel like middle school we're starting to meet more with the like actual counselors and some of the teachers more often. I think like recently I've also been checking in where we try to check in with the advisors like once a month from the schools about like progress and things like that. And usually it's really just a partnership to see like what are you doing at the school, and then how can we translate that when they do come to us. Yeah.
Perfect.
And I can speak on the fifth grade levels.
Mhm.
With SMART, we have a process where before they get entered into our fifth grade cohort, we already kind of assess and kind of know where students are coming in at. And because at the fifth grade level program, different from the middle school and high school level. We really don't have many opportunities when we are engaging with teachers, but it's more so in cases of special circumstances where we have students, we're concerned about engagement or family engagement. We'll then use that relationship and we're communicating through email. I know with our private school fifth grade level, typically it's families making that connection between SMART and the teacher, and just teachers and I maintaining the relationship when it comes to requesting school records or other just sensitive material. But fifth grade, we really don't have many opportunities where we're meeting with teachers, so it's more case by case in the needs, but that's how we go about it.
Okay. And for all three of you, oh, it was some feedback. I thought someone said something. So all three programs, how do you all get copies of the plans, the IEPs, 504s? Do parents share it, teachers share it, the counselors share it? Talk to me about that.
Usually families share the documents with us. We have an MOU with our public schools, and if we're able to provide that information, then schools will share it with us. But usually there has to be like not an incident, but some sort of like factor that then will allow the schools to share them with us. So we're hoping that families will bring it up to us at our beginning of your meeting, so then we have a better understanding of the students that we can serve them better.
And I wanted to echo off of that. I am curious. So I think most of us, we all, like through all grades, I work with the fifth grade families. We get it from families, but one thing that has been challenging is often families are a little confused with the process, the IEP process itself, of like understanding how often they should get updated, or like what is the most updated IEP. So I'm wondering too if there's any like feedback or suggestions you may have if we are directly getting it from family, like what are the questions to prompt and how to make sure we're getting the most accurate information.
Okay. I could just give you, I didn't do a slide for that, but I'll tell you right off the top of my head. The first thing you want to do is IEPs, and I didn't mention this, all of those plans should be updated annually. So usually districts IEP by law should be updated every year. Their reevaluations, what that means, that student is evaluated to determine if they continually need those services every 3 years. So you should see an IEP that should be updated every year, and the IEP is updated around the same time. So we had a meeting on January 26, 2025. The IEP should be held by January 25th, 2026. So those legal documents should be updated with a year. Same thing for an English language learner plan. It really is going to depend on the district, but they should be updated annually as well. The 504 should be updated annually too. However, the Office of Civil Rights is a little bit looser with the regulations. So I've seen them every 2 years, things like that. But those plans, all those plans should be written within a year. You should not have a student with 2 or 3 year 504 IEP or ELL plan. And if you have that, I would encourage you to see if the parent can discuss with the school when are they having an updated IEP. That's what I would advise you to ask the parent. So I see this IEP or 504. Is there a current one? If not, would you, ask the school if they can provide you with a current copy? That's the first thing. Ask if the school can provide the parent with a current copy of either plan. And then if they cannot, ask the parent to advocate on when they're going to have a meeting to update the plan. Yes, I see your hand.
Is the floor just open to questions now, or?
No, we're about to do a scenario, but I was on advocacy. And so, but if you have a question, please by all means ask, because the next thing is a scenario practice anyways, which will be a few minutes. But no, as you advocate for your students, I open the door so I can hear how your programs are set up so I can provide you the most appropriate advocacy tips. But if you have a question, by all means ask.
Yes, so my next question will be related to the MTSS. I really liked how you gave a presentation or a slide about what was it about? It was about the guidelines for doing don'ts, and specifically when speaking with families. Understanding that we have advisory cohorts from 5th through 12th grade, and we're overseeing about 45 families typically in each cohort. We do often come across families who are disengaged with like either just us or like our programming. And I wonder just what advice you would have in outreaching to those for families who have been disengaged with us and just trying to inform them of things like related to like the MTSS process, just because I know it's very circumstantial, but I just wonder like who would be the next person to have these sort of conversations and build these intervention plans within the case like parents are just not as engaged or a bit hesitant to just be receptive of what we're putting out there. Would it be teachers? Would it be yeah.
Yes. So I would go back to the teacher because a lot of times the same thing you're seeing is that's what's happening in the schools. So definitely going back to the schools and seeing if the student has a plan, if they have an intervention plan, if what you're seeing or if the family disengagement is happening in the school. Because once you know if it's not, then that's another issue. You might have to have a conversation or a conference with the parent, to see how we can problem solve and promote engagement. But if it's something that's happening at the school as well as SMART program, then yeah, I would definitely collaborate with the school and see what resources and things that you can tap into to help support and bolster that engagement. Or if it's, like I said, an ongoing thing that's happening at the school as well. So definitely going back to the school, seeing what plans and interventions are being done already instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, so you can just build upon what's already in place.
All right, another question regarding that. So one thing that we have done when trying to use MTSS is also trying to see if we can plot a family within that same framework. Is that something that's like recommended, or is it like, or is there something else that we should take into account? And very much saying in the case of a family who maybe isn't as communicative with us, or a family who just has a lot of technology challenges or even language barriers that get in the way of how we can not only communicate with them, but also be able to support them. Is that the correct of the MTSS, or are we missing something there?
Well, the MTSS is pretty much implementing interventions for the child. But when you implement the interventions for the child, whether it's academic or behaviorally, you want the family to be involved because their support is going to be needed to help with the intervention, if that makes sense. Am I clarifying your question?
I guess it's more of like, should we take into it, like if a family is hard to get a hold of or not engaging with us, would that be a valid reason to then shift the tier where the student is on MTSS, or is that like a misnomer on that end?
Yeah, that's a miss. That's more, the MTSS is for the student. So it's more student driven for academic or behaviors for the students, not for the families.
I think one thing that like is unique about our lens though is that we work so closely with families. So thinking about like how could we utilize this to just like our continuing family? So I think it's still a question for us to think about.
Yeah,
but
because
maybe
it's
not
more,
exactly.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just like, yeah, because it's more for the students. But if the family is not engaged, that could impact the students' engagement. A lot of what happens, yeah. And so if that's the case, then you might look at it from that lens. But continuing to talk to the schools, partner with the schools, see what you can find out, and then continuing to be diligent with the families. I don't know what the criteria is for engagement for your program. If there's parents have to be involved X amount. So, seeing what you have and how you can use your current resources to foster that engagement. So I don't know if they have to come to so many meetings or, if you just kind of, whoever comes to the program, you just work with. But just looking at ways you can tap into it. And sometimes you're not going to get 100%. I'm just going to be transparent. But if you can get 99, that's great. But yes, MTSS is more for the student, and it's more for the student, whether it's academic or behavior, supporting that student with the academic or behavioral deficit. And then whether you're doing small group or intensive one-on-one or if that student has a plan. And then the other thing is, like I say, you having the parents involved because you want them to support you with this implementation of that intervention plan.
I have a question. At what point is it too late to implement an IEP, and how long does it typically take to advocate for an IEP for a student? Like, what does the timeline look like? So I serve ninth graders, and sometimes when I'm seeing my ninth graders just started on an IEP plan, I'm concerned about what was going on in the years prior. Like, is it less likely for students to gain a plan in their high school years?
Honestly, it happens anytime. It's most likely in the younger grades, but a lot of times, unfortunately, students have been passed on with these deficits. And then, it comes down to, they're in ninth grade now, they can't read or they can't do something, or maybe even behavior, is impacting learning because they're frustrated. But there's no timeline. A student can get an IEP or 504 plan, 12th grade. So there's no specific time. It really depends on the parents' advocacy and understanding what they need to ask for and the school collaborating together. Sometimes schools see that, something's happened and wow, this student is really, really low. Um, and so the student might do the MTSS process, which is, implementing those interventions, seeing what the student is and seeing that the interventions are unsuccessful. And because of that, that student may require specialized services. So there's no grade limit to an IEP or 504. And a student can get it at any time. And usually the process is a little lengthy because it's an evaluation. So what happens is the parent signs a document saying they want to consent to have their child evaluated for services. And most districts have 90 days to do that testing, and that's not counting holidays and things like that. So there's usually a timeline, a state appointed timeline in which the district must evaluate that student and then come back to the table and go over those results and see if that student qualifies for services. And then once they do that, they talk about, what services the student may qualify for. And then they discuss what goals can help support that student based on the deficits that were achieved in that, the MTSS strategies and the evaluation.
And do you have any knowledge on what these plans look like outside of like public schools? Like what might they look like in independent schools? I feel like the students that we serve at independent schools, I don't know that like IEPs are managed in this way.
They all kind of look the same the way I showed you. The big thing is they should have that present levels of performance, which is the heart of your IEP, which is the why they have the IEP. So that present levels of performance and those goals and accommodations. Those are the things you should look for that's universal from an IEP, federally.
Okay.
Good question.
I have another about IEP. So in the fifth grade level, we see things where a family will come in the first semester with an IEP, they're on board with it, but then it's like in the second semester, they come back and they want to appeal their IEP. I just wonder, like, what's advice would you have for like supporting families through that process and just potential outcomes that may happen for families who do decide to do that process?
To revoke it. So why would they want to get rid of the IEP?
Yeah, because so in fifth grade level, we mostly focus on enrollment for middle school. And we have a family, for example, who came into SMART with an IEP status. And currently the mom is interested in potentially appealing the IEP because previously in the fall, she had wanted to apply to private middle schools. And in the Bay Area, SF IEPs are not supported. It really depends on institution, but the mom wanted to try and appeal the IEP before her middle school experience starts so she can try and apply, have more options for private school. And I just didn't know how to really navigate that conversation because I just know one, private schools don't really support IEP kids, but then also I just wasn't familiar about with the revoke of an IEP.
Yes. It's parents' right to revoke an IEP at any time. It might not be the best solution for a student, though. I mean, just because parents say, "Oh, you don't need this anymore," doesn't mean they don't need that support. But I've seen that a lot because they want them to like I said, get into a private school. Or a private school does not have to, they don't have to revoke if they want them in the private school, but it may depend on your scenario because usually a private school can say, we're not going to accept this. They can still have the IEP, but they just not going to honor it because they're private. They don't have to. They don't get those federal funds. And that's what, with the IEP 504s and all those plans, they're federal funds that, schools receive. Whereas private schools may not get those federal funds, so they don't have to honor it. Um, I would really, with a parent like that, I mean, it's really their prerogative of what they want to do, but I would have the conversation is this private school going to be the best placement for the student long term? Or is this private school going to be you revoking that service for your child? Is it really going to be beneficial? And I don't know how much you want to charter that water of going to it a whole lot, but, just because a student don't have that service anymore doesn't mean that they don't require it. So that kind of is going to be how you feel about coming or, approaching it with the parent. But yeah, I can see that happening. But what's going to be in the best interest of the student, even long term? If they're fifth grade and you revoke this IEP, what's going to happen when they get in ninth grade? Are they going to get those supports that they require to be successful?
Yeah, I wonder if we transition to the scenarios just so folks can get a little bit of practice.
Sure. So it's 5:13 now my time. So 13 after. Let's give about 7 minutes. I know it's short, but I would love for you all just to take some time, read your scenario. There are 4 scenarios.
Where are the scenarios? Oh, they're there.
They're also in their documents too. Yes.
I'm going to put in Ring Central for everyone, your groups, so you can see which scenario you're looking at in the program team channel. What scenario they're in?
Mm-hmm.
Nikia, how much time do we have to kind of like talk through it? Because we have our groups ready.
Oh, go ahead. 7 minutes. We're 90 minutes, so we may have to have 2 groups share out. And maybe you want to pick out which 2 scenarios you like, Myra, for them to share out.
Okay, that sounds good. So 2 groups will share out, and then everyone be ready to share out. We'll get back here in 7 minutes, which is 21. 2:21. You can stay in this room. Through there. What are you? No, sit down. You don't have to. Do you want to see? Yeah. Thank you.
I'm so down. I was writing your text.
Too, right?
Yeah.
Leah recently started skipping her school sessions she used to enjoy. When she doesn't attend, she's really frustrated. Marcus and years.
I don't do that scenario prompt
Stay
for their
Thursday, she's back. But that's like a pretty common.
Yeah, I was gonna say it seems.
I think
You punch and then
Really?
they just start.
really just
Mhm.
MTSS most likely.
And you like.
I think it's, there's
Sorry.
probably leadership in Scholars Life, so I would most likely most likely just talk to him.
There
from
are
his side,
definitely
you
scholars
try
that
to
fit
get,
this
when
description.
you
And
get
a lot
that
of, there are a
done, and
few
then
I
probably
haven't
talk to
seen at all.
family.
Who
Any
are not really
changes,
scholars that
recent
I've gotten
events, I
to
think
know.
we're very
Um,
familiar with that on the advisory
But I
end.
think my approach is essentially
And then I
to be
think
to
just moving
try and
forward
get in
from
contact with
that,
as many people as
most
I can,
likely,
like
that was my
see if
question, is that like,
I can get
with
contact
MTS,
with mom
like,
and dad.
should we
that
take the
have
lead
worked
on
in
creating that,
contact
or
with
should we
people,
take
people at the
responsibility
school
for
I
that?
can talk to. And just
Because
trying to like
I'm not sure we
learn
have
a little
the
bit more
capacity to
information
make that.
about the situation and.
But yeah, and then I think like
get
speaking to
contact with
teachers
somebody.
about,
I mean, I love the
creating
teacher
that
out there that
plan,
has dealt with this too,
and
and
what
I'm curious to hear
resources, what strategies
his
could be
approaches, but
accommodate for Marcus, like obviously if he is a
I
student
think my
that's
approach
been
would just be to
really on top of
branch out,
his
keep
game
trying
and
to
attending,
initiate contact
Yeah.
until there's
event or
somebody
schooling, what,
who's as close to this.
what are the remedies, what are the resources?
I can have a conversation.
Pick him back up again.
And it sounds like this, I mean,
Oh.
the first like.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
It is when they're coming in once
I
a
think
week.
this is like, when I think of like the tiers, it's just more like a tier. Yeah, so I was tuning in, even if it's changed like something. Goals, the used to come like next week, so like tier.
Where are you
now
at,
it's present.
more of an
Approach and like, and so the one thing that I also see is like, ensuring like none of this matters in. And like, once we possession that, and then comes to some training. Well, it's hard to set up options and like, maybe like, we something like that, yeah. And I do. I connect to Harry, schools, I'm next grader. And
I was looking on the advisory for the past few years, up until we got to my.
And,
It's all.
you know, that's where
And
it's
it's
very
been-
easy. And it's like, have a student that's like, you know, exhibiting.
Yeah, and he doesn't actually, he doesn't start aim, he doesn't like, she's nowhere.
It'd be like our intervention.
Yeah.
Or like reach.
We have a whole thing that we
Not
want
that
to
do some.
make goals, like we, and the teachers, it was amazing. Over. We did participate and they could sign with old school. Signing.
Changes.
That's hard to do.
Yeah.
But the.
Yeah, maybe I've tested this is more in bed.
Yeah,
And I don't think he's like necessarily gonna.
Yeah, I had to retake
And he's
biology,
definitely
I'm just gonna retake it, I was like, yeah, Harry, you have to pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just retake it, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's a champ.
I feel like I kind of neglected the second half of it, which is that they
No.
are actually showing the application, like I was treating it as a scholar.
Buddy, like.
And I think if possible in any capacity, being able to have a very like low pressure, low stress meeting with them while we're here. And just making a space to like listen to them and not really pressuring it, so out of the.
Paris.
Let's talk.
And I think that's
Anything missing.
Yeah, it's like, if you that.
Basically, yeah. Or he denied it.
Shreds, 500 people, you know, we're like, 50 students at a tree.
Workshop training.
They only have like 2.
If anything, I have a speech to is representative of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And.
I think starting there, but I think it's like,
Really would be like,
that
perspective is.
and have like IEPs would be good.
Why?
Because I think
there might be.
there's a lot of stuff over it. Yeah.
Unfortunately, this scholars I have. It's been since life as well, and they've been open.
It's just like, yeah, it's so
Now,
many things, and I'm
I
like,
know where.
yeah, I would have been interested, in the minorities, talking about kids
Let me
who don't
engage
have
and support
IEPs or
them.
504, and
but
what
We do.
it
have
just sounds
to
like
like, so that we're not
for,
talking.
some even thinking just personal experience, it's like
But,
from that time, like,
I know that some.
even if
Scholars.
at the time I was declared as like gifted, I had ADHD the whole time, so like what is that, and like,
I know individually from what you're looking at like that. Is less nerve wracking than.
Gifted. I don't think that was right, no.
Going to school and stuff like that.
Cause I didn't know what I think star testing.
Yeah, yeah.
There's skin testing and.
Yeah.
I'm curious. When you said unreal, I'm just collecting, I'm in a rush, because I'm not like sit down nervous about
Getting support, does that mean like getting therapy? That's interesting. Yeah.
I think both ways, like one, like I think they all know that like.
And even know that
grade level that
they're
they're under that they'll get
Yeah.
or tutoring, and then the other thing is like
Or that's
Uh,
obviously pretty.
some scholars know they need help, and they don't
Yeah,
like.
because they're tiered and be assessed.
Like,
Yeah.
as a group,
There
like,
should
for
have to be
example, like,
documentation.
there's kids who've been like, I really need this.
All right, it's
Oh.
21
Oh,
after.
really?
All right, it's 21 after.
Because I guess the goal is for them to
Because they don't
really
shoot
like general,
Like
to
learning, yeah.
know how well versed they are in that subject. Yeah.
How do you usually?
Yeah, I'm gonna get folks back, sorry.
More private.
No worries.
So, I think
Forward.
but I don't know if the teachers decide that.
Or even like.
Or if they just all.
67.
Because-
And it's like, part time.
Yeah.
I'll just tell them, like, they give me like. Some of those.
Yeah. Cause that's.
You're all heading back. I'm gonna back.
All right, perfect.
Like for the.
Perfect.
Or anything like. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I think we're gonna be-
I like it a lot. Yeah, it's fun, the whole night was real fun. It was supposed to be weekend.
Welcome back. Welcome back. All right, who wants to share?
All right, who wants to share?
We have two scenarios. So who wants to share? Or Mara, do you want to select who shares?
All right, group one, who wants to share from group one?
I'm free. I can share. Yeah, we really talked about, we've had similar scenarios to this student before for Marcus. And so I think what we would have done is just, in the event he's visiting our space, checking in with him, to hear his point of view. It's sounding like it is probably something that is at home, a sudden life event. So I think talking to the family about, what's taken place. And then I think furthermore, meeting with school, talking maybe about MTSS intervention plan, just to get that scheduled, how to bring him back up, and how to support him through that time he's having, especially because it is so sudden. But yeah, I think those would be the overall things, just communicating with school, getting Marcus on a plan so that we can talk about what's happened, and hopefully get him back to his previous standing.
Right, perfect. And that's, Marcus needs some social emotional support, which is that part of MTSS. Remember, we said academics, behavior, or social emotional. So something's going on social emotionally, which is impacting his behavior. Very good. Awesome. All right. Next scenario.
Do we have time for all four or two?
Just two.
Two.
But you select which one
All right.
just really stands out.
Scenario three, group three. Curious thoughts. In group three. Yeah, Joji.
Yeah, I guess I could talk. Yeah, we were talking just about how it seems like they might be, like I said, struggling with executive functioning, organization. I think one thing that we could even just start with is like having a conversation with Diego. Even simple questions like, oh, can you walk through your day, or like just getting to the root of like the why. And starting to create a plan with him, whether it's like trying different strategies for him to be organized, manage his time, and following up with him to see how those are working and see what we can change. And also having a conversation and looping in teachers just to get a little bit more information about what's going on at school as well. And if there's like any plans to support him through school.
Perfect. Awesome. Good job. And that one is academics and behavior, where they both kind of mirror or mission to each other, because the behavior, the executive functioning, the lack of organization is impacting academics. And you see how all three of those things just align and kind of go into each other: social, emotional, behavior, and academics. Very good. All right. So if we want to recap just what we talked about today, our goals, we talked about the big three. We discuss IEPs, 504s, English language learner plans. We discuss MTSS and the process and how it looks in different programs. And then we talked about family engagement and ways to have conversations with families, as well as intervention plan and the samples of intervention plans. So now I'm going to pull up the Menti, and I think I got it right down right this time. So go ahead and go back into it. Want to know what's one strategy you'll try this week? I had conversation starters in there too, but we got into the questions, which I'd rather ask your questions. Language buddies, all right. I like that. Data review. Love data. School meetings. I love it. Communication. It takes a village. Collaboration. Somebody read my mind. I love it. Weekly progress check-ins. Very important. Consistency. School meetings. Holistic support. Yep. Whole child. Strategic peer pairings. I love it. So keep it going. Let me get back in the presentation. Keep the conversations going. You have with you while we're doing that, those additional resources. I provided a presentation handout for today. Also, the reference sheet is not our advanced training sheet, but the sample plans, you should have those documents in your reference sheet. There's a sample plan for everything. And just as we close out, I just want to make sure that I just leave some tips from myself personally based on what my background is. Just build those relationships, understand the plans, navigate the resources, develop skills, make sure you practice that cultural sensitivity, monitor. And if you need an intervention plan or need to do strategies, don't be afraid to trust your expertise and go in and help support students. Once again, that was one thing that you'll walk away with. I'm going to move on. The key message is working with diverse learners and supporting them in different environments. And that is it. Once again, I'm Dr. Nakia Cotton Smith. Thank you for being such a great audience. I want to make sure I end on time, so I have 1 minute. I do have books. So if I heard you talking about parents and things like that, those are all my resources. I shared my media kit with you as well. So I have books, I have a podcast, really passionate about diverse learners. And then there is a survey on your document that I would love for you to complete, just questions telling me how the training went for you. And if you would love, I would love for you to be a part of my community. I have a website. Sometimes I do drawings, gift card. That's the pink QR code. You can subscribe to my website, the survey, or to my YouTube page where I have the podcast. That's a great resource that you can share with families as well about learning about not just special ed, but just diverse learners. I discuss strategies in the podcast. So thank you for listening, engaging with me, being such a great audience. I'm going to open it up while you all are doing the survey for any additional questions that you may have.
The survey is the third one, right?
Huh? Yes, the third one. I think so. It's on this document though. Smart resources. So not this one. Where is it? All my stuff. It's on this doc. It should be at the bottom. So everything is also here. So the podcast, Where's the survey? Oh, it didn't go through. Oh, let me, it didn't save. I can pull it. It was supposed to be on that document.
I pulled it up and I can, and are you able to share, Nikki, are you able to share this with us as well? We had a different survey we were gonna give staff, but would rather, if you're already doing one, we'd love to be able to share.
Yeah, I can share it with you. And I'm gonna copy the image.
Survey program team.
Yeah, I'll share
Thank you.
Yes, I will share this with you. So the QR code right here is right here, everyone. I'll make it big. See if I can make it big. There it is. So if you guys, yes, Myra, I will share this Excel sheet with you. You can take it.
Amazing.
Do the same thing with Beyond 12s, no worries. But there's the survey link.
Yes, I shared the survey link with everyone.
Okay,
perfect.
perfect. And I have it on the screen too. Let's see. But thank you all for being such a great audience.
Thank you, that was great.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we'll be back. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
All right, thank you all. Y'all have a great day.
You too. Okay, yeah, so if everyone can take the survey, we had created a separate survey, but let's just have one. And then we really want to just gain your understanding of